Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about DCKO Boss Battle Issue 1, written by Jeremy Adams, with art by Ronan Clequit, Carmine Di Giandomenico, Kiernan McCowan, and Pablo M. Collar, with colours by Hi-Fi and letters by Tom Napolitano. The craziest installment of the DCKO event kicks off right here, as while Earth succumbs to the heart of apocalypse and is forever changed, Gorilla Grodd and World Forger teleport to its surface, having escaped the Darkseid-possessed Booster Gold on the Watchtower. Grodd cites how Forger is injured, thinking that it's a sign of the times, but Forger refuses to let Darkseid win, and it'd be better if the universe would just die. The duo soon find that their choice might have already been made for them, as they find the 4 remaining Omega Tournament contestants confronted by the Absolute Superman, the Absolute Batman, the Absolute Wonder Woman, and the Darkseid-possessed Booster Gold. Man, I love that we are just picking up directly at the end of DCKO issue 3, and not only that, we are continuing Forger and Grodd's story that was picked up in many of the Fight Month books. As I said during those stories, it was all heading towards these stories tying all together in a satisfying way, and it's really great to see it all starting to come together as we enter the 3rd act of this event. Forger tries to stop the oncoming fight using what little power he has left on the group of heroes and villains, freezing the absolute beings in place. Joker wants to kill them now, but Forger warns him that if they touch them, time would then just restart and the tournament will continue, and as Lex notes, that they would immediately all die. Forger tells the group that these beings are versions of the heroes from the Omega universe and they don't have the power to fight them just yet. Forger uses his power to summon back to life Black Lightning, Plastic Man, Batwoman, and Star Sapphire, telling them that their second chance will give the heroes a leg up on their quest. So Forger, despite having very little power left, can somehow manage to do all this stuff, which would have helped a lot sooner, I think. Just feels rather convenient he can do all of this now. The heroes he also brought back are interesting, since why particularly those heroes? There's not really a reason given, and I guess it's maybe to balance out who they're going to be fighting, like Vampirella, Red Sonja, all those characters. But it's a very strange selection of characters. It's characters that both Jeremy Adams has written before, like Star Sapphire, and characters that I don't believe he has written before. I think he hasn't written Plastic Man and Black Lightning. I know he hasn't written Batwoman, I don't think, either. So maybe it's just characters he wanted to write. Forger explains to the group that he can pierce the veil surrounding the multiverse and will attempt to reach out to worlds outside of it and bring new champions into several reality fissures, which the heroes must then enter and battle the champions, through which Forger will collect the Omega energy produced by their ongoing fights, and when his forging hammer is full of this energy, he can then give it to the remaining 4 contestants of the Omega tournament and boost their power so they might stand a chance against their absolute counterparts. The multiversal fissures open and the team is sucked into it, with Plastic Man and Black Lightning being dumped into Shang Tsung's island, where they are confronted by Shang himself along with Sub-Zero, whom Shang orders to kill the heroes for interrupting his mortal combat. Okay, so the premise is just really fucking cool. It's just schlocky sci-fi comic bullshit, just dropping these heroes in with each other, seeing what happens. It works. It's just the type of stuff the Heart of Apocalypse enjoys, and probably the reason it let Forger do all this, since this is going to get views, it's going to get the hits, the Omega energy that it needs and wants. Elsewhere, Wonder Woman is spat out into a giant coliseum, where an announcer welcomes her to the arena, revealing her opponent is the fierce warrior woman Red Sonja. Joker meanwhile is teleported outside of an old rundown house, figuring that he'll just murder whoever lives inside and maybe even flip the house. Entering the home, he finds not all is as it seems, as the front door slams closed behind him and he is left to confront Annabelle, something Joker doesn't take seriously at all. Batwoman meanwhile finds herself, of course, at a gothic castle, and upon kicking open the door, she's confronted by Vampirella, who immediately becomes infatuated with Kate and begins using her charm on the hero, knowing Batwoman knows how to make an entrance, but wonders how better her exit will be. See, this is how we set this up. They aren't jumping around it or teasing it, we're just getting straight into the matchups, and they are all pretty obvious matchups, Batwoman with the Vampire Lady, Red Sonja versus Wonder Woman, pretty obvious, but they're really fun as well, and I can't wait to see how they all turn out. One unlikely fight though is Star Sapphire's, who arrives in Greenvale, where she meets Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Carol isn't sure what they are to do, only knowing they have to maybe fight to collect some Omega energy. Sabrina thinks that they are going to fight some big bad guy and conjures up a spell which creates a giant icy whirlwind, knocking Kaz and Carol away. Lex Luthor meanwhile finds himself in a dense forest, hearing some sickly dripping noises from nearby, and he goes to investigate and soon stumbles upon Samantha Strong carving up her latest victim. Now this is a fight I'm really genuinely excited to see, since I just got done reading Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees for the first time, and it was a fantastic dark book. So pitting Sam against Lex really intrigued me, since both really do have lots in common. They have that sort of mask they hide behind, that public face, and when push comes to shove, both can be ruthless killers. So it's a kind of an interesting matchup. I don't think we'll get all that much because there's a lot to cover in this book, but it's a fun little matchup that actually seems to have some thought behind it. Sam attacks Lex with her knife, catching him off guard since Lex did not expect to see a bear with a butcher's knife. Sam stabs at Lex, but his armor stops the simple blade and he is able to punch her away, but despite being a rather large bear, Sam is rather fast and leaps from a nearby tree down onto Lex, bearing her claws and fangs. Superman meanwhile finds himself in a city not unlike Metropolis, and soon he hears the screams for help and races off to help, only to find Homelander butchering people in the street. Homelander doesn't think this is ever a problem when he's around, asking Superman who the hell he is meant to be. So of course, this is the fight everyone is looking forward to. This is like the power scaler's wet dream of a fight. But it's also at this point that I really want to remind people that the entire point of these fights isn't that one of the two fighters wins. It's the whole point of these fights is to generate the Omega energy, and just them interacting and fighting and being close to each other does that. That's the entire point. It's the meta story that's been running through all of DCKO, which is the Heart of Apocalypse is acting like a spoiled fan who only wants to see the action figures smack together so they can clap and cheer, and the sheer possibility of these fights is what's making the Omega energy, which we know is generated when the Heart likes what it sees. We saw that all through the Fight Month books, particularly with the Jason Todd Joker book, which saw Jason technically win, but also Joker technically win because that would cause more Omega energy. It would cause real life fans to get angry, which is what happened. That's exactly the point of that, and exactly the point of this book. It's incredibly ingenious that they've written this meta narrative into the actual story, the actual core story of DCKO. It's so genius. Back in the Mortal Kombat, Plastic Man and Black Lightning blast out of the ice Sub-Zero freezes them in, surviving the fatality thanks to Plastic Man wrapping them both in his own plastic body. The heroes take the fight to Sub-Zero and smash him down, but as the second round starts, Scorpion bursts out of the ice crystal behind Sub-Zero, teaming with him to test the hero's might. I really like that we aren't going the route where the heroes just kind of dumped into this and there's like chaos going on around them and they're just barely like getting through it all and everything. They're both actively fighting Scorpion and Sub-Zero here, and it's fun seeing how their powers stack up against the Mortal Kombat fighters. As Black Lightning is hit by Scorpion's kunai blade, Plastic Man dodges it and wraps his body around Scorpion, tossing him into Sub-Zero, where Black Lightning blasts both of them with his lightning. Wonder Woman meanwhile seems to be evenly matched with Red Sonja, finding the warrior woman has equal strength to that of an Amazon. Sonja thinks that she'll need to be more than that to survive in the world of men, and Diana knows more than most what it takes to survive in the world of men. Sonja goes on the attack and brings her blade down on Wonder Woman, who crosses her gauntlets and causes a giant explosion as the blade hits them. In New York, Superman tries to introduce himself to Homelander, but the villain cuts him off, figuring he's just another in a long line of people trying to take the mantle of America's favorite superhero. Homelander fires his heat vision at Superman, but Clark matches it, finding Homelander's is strong, so he needs to try another tactic. He dives into the ground, making Homelander think that Superman just ran off, but the hero bursts from the ground, telling Homelander that Superman never runs away. He smashes the villain into the air, but Homelander quickly regains control of himself and comes back for him, tackling Superman into the city street. As the battles all heat up, World Forger knows the energy being generated is almost enough and his hammer is almost full, but unfortunately he can't hold it any longer and falls unconscious. Thanks to Forger being knocked out, Grodd knows the separate reality fissures will begin to converge into one, and then the energy will be expelled and Darkseid will win. This is what I've been saying, it's not about who wins these fights, it's just the premise of these fights is what's generating this energy. This meta idea of the rabid fanboys getting excited at the thought of Superman versus Homelander or Vampirella versus Batwoman. The idea is what generates the energy, and we've seen it all through those Fight Month books, as I said before. As Forge's power wanes, Joker has a tea party with Annabelle, becoming frustrated since the doll won't talk to him or move, and he smashes the teacup, threatening the doll with the jagged edge of it. I really do love the idea that Annabelle just doesn't fight Joker per se, but just fucks around with him by just being still, only moving when he's not looking, or, only looking at her from the corner of his eye, much like how Annabelle does in the movies, and that pisses Joker off so much since she isn't, replying to his baits and taunts and comments, she isn't reacting to it, and that's driving him insane. As Joker taunts the doll, Superman and Homelander come crashing through the roof. Homelander taunts Superman some more, thinking that he's not much of a challenge, but Superman headbutts him hard, breaking the villain's nose and commenting how he's just not much of a challenge either. Star Sapphire meanwhile tries to stop Sabrina's out-of-control magic, but the teenage witch manages to get it all sorted, sucking the spell back into her hand. It's really cool that Sabrina and Carol's match didn't actually end up in a fight, it was just a bit of a misunderstanding. But again, them just being together, the notion that a fight could start, something could happen is what generated the Omega energy needed. As the spell is stopped, another rift opens up and Mortal Kombat spills into Greenvale, spitting out Black Lightning, Plastic Man, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. Carol grabs Sabrina and dives out of the way as Black Lightning knows that something is very wrong and they are somehow bleeding into the next fight. As Batwoman tosses Vampirella into a stone pillar, she finds the battle has been taken out of the Gothic castle and into a giant arena, where the other fighters are all still going at it. Outside the fights, World Forger regains consciousness, but finds he has failed and the realities are collapsing, and soon the Omega energy will be free and all is lost. Grodd steps up to be a hero for a change, using his powers to help Forger pick up the hammer and control the energy, separating the reality fissures again and sending Annabelle, Sabrina, and Vampirella and the others back to their own realities. Homelander, however, tries to resist, thinking that he is winning in his match against Superman, but he too is also pulled back into his world. The allies Forger resurrected for the fight all begin to return back to stone, and the Omega energy is funneled directly into the 4 remaining tournament contestants, giving them a big power boost, enough to fight Darkseid's absolute heroes. Forger knows that the power will have to do, and now it's up to the heroes to do their jobs. Superman rallies the unlikely team, telling them that it's time to finish this once and for all as they charge the absolute counterparts. I really like this conclusion. The heroes, Lex, Joker, all of them are all at their max power level and will no doubt lead to some brilliant set pieces in the next DCKO when they fight the absolute versions of themselves, which I imagine are too also at max power. I know people will whine that the other fights in this book didn't last long, and again, that was not the point of them. The entire event has been built around the meta commentary of spoiled fans who only want the jingling keys and that costume from Kingdom Come or that costume from that story or that story to appear, and then to do a big fight issue and stop it short is a very ballsy move. I have to imagine they know they're going to get some hate for this, mainly from people who aren't really understanding what this whole story is trying to tell, but Adams and the other went for it. I really like they went for it. They did this as well with the Joker and the Jason Todd fight, so they know exactly what they're getting into, and I just like that a risk like that was taken. Like, we could stop all of these fights short of anyone actually winning them, because that was the entire point of them. That's really cool, and I'm really intrigued to see where that takes us into DCKO issue 4. DCKO Boss Battle Issue 1 is absolutely going to be a controversial issue, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I immediately knew where Jeremy Adams and his writing team were going with the fights in this one, and once I figured that out, I actually enjoyed the issue so much more. The matchups, despite being brief, were fun, and the issue's overarching meta story about fans and fan entitlement and what they expect was just the cherry on top for me. I can't wait to see what is next for DCKO and now what the max level DC heroes are like fighting the max level absolute heroes and how that's going to play out in DCKO issue 4. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.